Welcome to the Angular DataGrid component tutorial. The Syncfusion Angular Grid allows you to visualize data in a clean, tabular format. It also offers a wide range of easy customization options, so you can decide exactly how to present your data in the Angular Grid. In this video, I'll show you how to integrate the Angular DataGrid component into your Angular application. You'll learn how to customize the columns of the Angular DataGrid. Additionally, I'll demonstrate how to enable key features such as paging, sorting, filtering, and grouping. Before moving forward, make sure you have installed the latest version of Node.js and Angular. I'll edit my code using Visual Studio Code and show the output in the Chrome browser. Let's start the application creation process. I open Visual Studio Code and install the Angular CLI using the command npm install -g at angular/CLI. Next, I will create a new Angular project. I use the command ngnew, project name, and name my project My Angular App. I'm going to create a project with an option to add a CSS style sheet. I chose the CSS option. I am not doing any server-side rendering, so I selected No and pressed Enter. Since I am not using any AI tools for this application, I chose the None option. The project creation has started, and an Angular project with all required dependencies has been created. Now, let me navigate the project folder. In Angular 21, standalone components are the default. In this video, I'm using the modern standalone architecture. If you need more information about standalone architecture, refer to the documentation link below. To use the Angular DataGrid component, I need to install the Syncfusion Grid package using the command npm install at syncfusion/ej2angulargrids --save. The application is now ready to use. The first thing I must do here is register the trial license key to use Syncfusion components. So, open the main TS file and import the register a license method from the Syncfusion ej2 base package. Using this method, I register the trial license key. To learn how to generate this license key, refer to the link in the description below. The application is now configured to use Syncfusion components. To add the DataGrid component, I open the app TS file and import the grid module from the Syncfusion ej2 Angular Grids package. Next, I add the grid module to the imports array. Then, I open the app HTML file and remove the default code. First, I create a div element and assign it a class name called container. Inside this container, I add the Syncfusion Grid component by using the EJS grid directive. At this stage when I run the application, the grid will be empty because I haven't provided any data for it to display. So, I will define some data that will be rendered inside the component. To do this, I create a separate file named datasource.ts. Inside this file, I create a variable using the let keyword, export it as data, and assign an array of objects as its value. Next, in the app.ts file, I import the onInit from Angular score package. Now I import the data from the data source file. Then, in the export class, I implement the onInit interface so that I can use Angular's lifecycle hook. After that, I add a new property called data, which will hold an array of objects. Finally, I define the ng-on-init lifecycle hook. Inside this method, I assign a value to the data property. This ensures the data is initialized when the component starts. To bind data to the grid component, I open the app HTML file and set the data source property on the EJS grid component and bind this property to the data variable. Next, I navigate to the styles CSS file and import the required CSS references by importing the Tailwind theme. You can also use other themes like Material, Bootstrap, Fluent, and more. Then, I save my changes and run the application using the ngserve command. You can see the data grid is rendered with the data provided. Now, I will show you how to customize the columns of the Angular grid component. The grid provides the option to define columns using directives. In these column directives, various properties are available to customize column behavior, like field, header text, format, and so on. In the app HTML file, I add the eColumns directive inside the grid component. Within eColumns, I define multiple eColumn directives, and each eColumn represents a separate column in the grid. Here, you can see that I have specified different fields such as order ID, customer ID, freight, and order date. I have also set properties like header text, text alignment, column width, and even applied a currency format for the freight field. This format property also allows us to set the date format in the grid. Let's check the output. You can see the grid data is customized as date and currency formats are changed. Next, I will show you how to enable the paging feature in the Angular grid. Initially, the paging feature is not enabled in the grid component. To keep the grid lightweight, additional features are separated into modules. This allows you to add only the required modules when needed, making the component more efficient and reliable. To add the paging feature, first I import the page settings model and page service from the grid package. Next, I inject the page service in the provider's array to enable paging in the grid component. In the component class, I initialize the page settings property using the page settings model and set the page size to 5. So the grid will display 5 records per page. In the app HTML file, I set the allow paging property as true to enable pagination. Also, I bind the grid's page settings property to the component class's page settings variable. In the output, you can see the grid shows 5 rows per page. Next, I will show you how to enable the sorting feature. To enable sorting, I import sort service into the grid package and inject it into the provider's array. In the app HTML file, I set the allow sorting property as true to enable sorting. See when I click the column header, the column is sorted. To enable multi-sorting, I set the allow multi-sorting property to true. With this enabled, you can sort multiple columns by holding the Control key and clicking on additional column headers. Now I will show you how to enable the filtering option. First, I import the filter service from the grid package and inject the filter service into the provider array. In the app HTML file, I set the allow filtering property as true to enable filtering. See now the default filter bar is enabled in grid, and you can filter the values of any columns with it. Apart from the default filter bar, the DataGrid also supports additional filter types such as menu, checkbox, and Excel. To use these options, import the filter settings model. In the component class, I create a public variable called filter options and assign it the filter settings model type. In the ng-oninit method, I initialize the filter options and set the filter type to checkbox. In the app HTML file, I bind the filter settings property with the filter options object. Now the filtering interface changes to a checkbox style pop-up, allowing me to apply filter for the selected item. In the same way, you can change the filter type to menu for selecting values using multiple options, or Excel for a spreadsheet like filtering experience. Simply update the type property in the filter options accordingly. Next, let me show you how to enable grouping. I import the group service from the grid package and inject the group service into the provider array. In the app HTML file, I set the allow grouping property as true to enable filtering. The grid component is now enabled with the grouping section. You can group the grid records simply by dragging the desired header section. Let's wrap up this video. I have shown you how to add the Syncfusion DataGrid component to an Angular application, configure how to customize the column, enabling the features such as paging, sorting, filtering, and grouping. If you want to try out the example used in this video, download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also shared a link to learn how to obtain a free license key to use our Angular components through our community license if you are eligible. Thank you for watching this video.